The world number 2 just admitted something on camera that no top-ranked player is supposed to say about a rival. And once you hear what it actually was, you're going to understand why the entire tennis world stopped scrolling the moment this clip started circulating. Coco Gauff was asked a simple question about Alex Eala, the kind of question players usually answer with a polite, forgettable line. Instead, she said Eala scares her. Not her shots, not her serve. Something underneath all of it. Something Gauff says she watched happen in real time during the biggest moments of Eala's career. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what that something is, because once you see it, you'll not be able to unsee it in every match Alex Eala plays from here on out. Before we go any further, if you have been watching this rise happen match by match the way we have, you already know why this channel exists. We are not here for highlight reels and hot takes. We are here to actually understand the story. And that only works if this community keeps growing. So subscribe right now, genuinely, because every single one of you watching is part of the reason this story keeps getting told the right way. And I promise you, what's coming in the next few minutes is going to make you glad you did. So let's get into exactly what Coco Gauff said, because this wasn't empty praise. The world number 2 didn't talk about Eala's technique or her improving shot making, even though both of those are undeniable. What Gauff kept coming back to was something much harder to fake. The belief Eala now carries on to every court she walks onto. The sense that she belongs on the biggest stages in the sport, not hoping to survive them, but expecting to compete on them. Gauff pointed out that this wasn't always the case. The hesitation that usually follows a young player around the tour, the second-guessing, the caution, all of that appears to be disappearing from Eala's game, replaced by something far more dangerous, a fearless mindset that lets her compete freely against literally anyone across the net. And that shift, according to Gauff, did not happen overnight, and it did not happen by luck. It's the direct result of relentless work, hours nobody sees, and a growing self-belief that has completely changed how Alex Eala is perceived across the entire tour. She is no longer being talked about as a promising teenager with potential somewhere down the road. She is being talked about right now as a genuine threat to the very best players alive in this sport, and that is an enormous shift in less than a year. To prove her point, Gauff didn't point to the scoreline of Eala's win over Iga Swiatek. She pointed to something most fans completely missed: the opening set, the part of the match where Eala faced wave after wave of pressure and simply refused to break. Point after point, she found a way to survive the moment before eventually taking the set outright. For Gauff, that sequence is the exact line that separates a talented player from a player who is actually ready to compete with the elite. Winning points when things are going your way is one skill. Holding your nerve when everything is on fire is an entirely different one. And here's the part that should genuinely make you nervous if you're a fan of anyone else on that tour. Eala has started to show that second skill with alarming consistency. What impressed Gauff the most wasn't a single shot or a single game. It was the composure. Despite the size of the occasion, Eala never looked overwhelmed. She stayed locked into every rally, trusted her own game plan, and kept making brave decisions in moments where most players would have pulled back and played it safe. Instead of letting the pressure control the match, she slowly bent the momentum toward herself using nothing but confidence and resilience, and that, according to Gauff, is one of the rarest qualities in this entire sport. Talent gets you far, but the biggest matches are almost always decided by whoever stays calm when it matters most, and Eala is proving she has that in her match after match. Here's where this gets even more interesting, because this isn't just an outside observation from Gauff. She has actually shared a court with Eala. She knows firsthand exactly how difficult it is to face someone who simply refuses to be intimidated. When a player keeps believing in herself no matter what the scoreboard says, every single game becomes heavier. Every point carries more weight, and there is no moment where you, as the opponent, get to relax. That mindset, more than anything else, is why some of the biggest names in women's tennis are starting to speak about Alex Eala with genuine respect instead of polite encouragement. Think about what usually happens in a big match. At some point, pressure shows up on the other side of the net. A rush forehand, a hesitant second serve, a flash of doubt during a crucial game. Every player waits for that crack to appear because that's usually where the match turns. But when that moment never comes, when the door never opens, the entire challenge changes completely. Facing someone who plays with full belief from the very first point to the very last forces you to raise your own level over and over again, and there's no room left to coast, no window to wait for a mistake. Because every single rally feels just as important as the one before it. That is exactly what makes Alex Eala such a nightmare matchup right now. Her aggressive style, her relentless determination, her willingness to attack even when the pressure is at its peak, all of it turns every service game into a genuine battle. She's not reacting to rallies anymore. She's dictating them. And as her confidence builds throughout a match, her level rises right alongside it, fed by every successful point and by the roar of a crowd that is very clearly on her side. And Coco Gauff is far from the only elite player who has said something like this. Before Eala's massive round of 16 clash with Jasmine Paolini at Wimbledon, Paolini herself acknowledged the size of the challenge waiting for her. By that stage of the tournament, nobody was treating Alex Eala like an exciting young prospect anymore. She had become one of the most dangerous players left in the entire draw, someone capable of pushing even the biggest names in the sport right to the edge. Paolini knew this match wasn't going to be routine, because by the time they stepped on court together, Eala had already grabbed the attention of the entire tennis world through a string of fearless, composed performances. She wasn't just winning matches at that point. She was actively changing the conversation around her own career, and every single win added another layer to a confidence that simply cannot be taught overnight. There's a reason momentum is talked about like a living thing in this sport. When a player strings together performance after performance like this, belief starts spreading inside locker rooms, among coaching staff, through entire fan bases. Opponents start rewatching matches more closely. Coaches start burning extra hours studying tactics. And suddenly, a player who used to walk into tournaments without much attention becomes the one single name absolutely everyone is talking about. That is precisely the position Alex Eala found herself in during her Wimbledon run. And what made it even more dangerous was the freedom she was playing with. Players riding real momentum stopped worrying about rankings, stopped worrying about reputations, stopped worrying about the name standing across the net. They trust their instincts. They commit fully to every single shot, and instead of fearing the biggest moments, they run straight into them. So here's the question hanging over the rest of this season, the one nobody quite has the answer to yet. If Coco Gauff and Jasmine Paolini, two of the toughest competitors on tour, are already talking about Eala like this, what happens when she walks into a Grand Slam final under that same pressure? Because not long ago, Alex Eala was simply one of the most exciting prospects in the sport, a player with obvious potential who was still learning how to compete consistently at the very top. Wimbledon shattered that narrative completely. After taking down accomplished, experienced opponents and producing mature, composed tennis on one of the biggest stages the sport has, she stopped being viewed as a future star and started being treated as a threat in the present tense. Right now, no asterisk attached. And none of that came from headlines or social media buzz. It came from performances that forced people to pay attention, match after match of resilience, sharp tactical decisions, and the courage to keep attacking exactly when the pressure was at its absolute highest. Those things cannot be manufactured. They have to be earned point by point against players who have already won everything there is to win. By the end of her Wimbledon campaign, one message had become impossible to ignore across the entire tour. Alex Eala is no longer just another talented young player hoping for a breakthrough. She has established herself as a genuine contender capable of testing the very best women's tennis has to offer, and that is exactly why so many players, analysts, and fans left that tournament convinced her rise is only just beginning. What stood out most through every single one of those matches was a level of maturity that usually takes years to build. She stayed composed against opponents with far more experience. She embraced the biggest moments instead of shrinking from them, and she kept playing her natural, attacking game even as the stakes climbed higher and higher. Rather than getting overwhelmed by the size of the occasion, she seemed to grow stronger with every single challenge thrown at her, and every hard-fought one only reinforced one growing belief across the tour that she truly belongs on these stages, standing across the net from the very best players alive. What impressed so many observers wasn't just the quality of her shot-making. It was the confidence sitting behind every single decision. Whether she was defending under heavy pressure or stepping inside the baseline to take control of a rally, Eala trusted her own game completely. She wasn't sitting back waiting for her opponents to hand her mistakes. She was manufacturing the opportunities herself. That fearless approach is one of the hardest things to develop in this entire sport, because it can't be taught in a single off-season. It comes from experience, from preparation, and from a genuine belief that you deserve to be standing on the biggest courts in tennis. And that belief is exactly why the conversation around Alex Eala has changed so dramatically. It's no longer just about potential. It's about what she's already doing right now against elite competition that has nothing to give away for free. Her Wimbledon run also proves something just as important as any single win. She has shown that she can carry the weight of expectation and the roar of thousands of passionate Filipino fans around the world without ever letting it become a burden. Instead, she has turned every packed stand, every eruption from crowd, every difficult moment into fuel, and that fuel is exactly what's carrying her into this next stretch of the season. So here's what I want you sitting with as this story keeps unfolding, because this is not a finished chapter. This is very clearly the beginning of one. If two of the toughest, most respected competitors in women's tennis are already speaking about Alex Eala like she's already arrived, the real question is what happens the next time she walks into a match with a Grand Slam trophy actually on the line? Does that fearless mindset hold under even heavier pressure? Or is there a ceiling out there we haven't seen yet? I want to know what you think. Drop your prediction in the comments right now. And if this story means anything to you the way it means something to us, subscribe and stay in the circle, because we're going to be right here breaking down every single step of what comes next before anyone else does.